Today is our first podcast in 2024, talking all things Princeton Vikings with AD Joe Roberts. Joe, how are we doing this morning?
Rob, fantastic. Happy New Year to you. It's great to get 2024 going here.
Yeah, it seems new and fresh and just exciting to get the new year started. And I thought what we'd do in today's show, kind of do a little bit of overview,
Yeah.
because it looks like all your teams were playing over the break and had some great competition. So I thought we'd go through the sports and just kind of give the fans an overview on what happened over break. And how's that for you?
Yeah, sounds great. Sounds great. Ready to
Let's start
always
off
love to
with
recap the break.
Yeah, that sounds great. Let's start with boys basketball, and I think let's see. Before our last show, I think we had a great win where they hosted the Aviators, GMC win, and then traveled to Mason, a tough loss there, and then they traveled down to Mississippi. So let's just kind of give the fans where the state of boys basketball is right now, Joe.
Yeah, the holidays were really rough on the Princeton Vikings boys basketball team. And it started with that game at Mason. And, it was almost as if they had already eaten Christmas cookies for 3 straight weeks. It didn't look in sync. They they just it was just one of those. I think their minds were just in a different place. They were coming off of a finals week and coming off of, hey, let's go have a break and let's gear up for the holidays. And it was a tough game. And hats off to Mason. They played extremely well, and they're a pretty well coached and well versed basketball program. But it is what it is with that. And then we hop on a bus and head down to Gulfport, Mississippi to take on, I think it was the number one ranked team in Alabama in the first game. And then I forget who he played in the second, but, we lose the next two, and then we play Gulfport High School and win that third one. And they're on their way back and going to try to get home and celebrate the new year and get a little break and a little rest. And our van breaks down in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. And so they had to spend another night in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Of course, the kids, I think they absolutely loved it. Got another night in a hotel, swam in the swimming pool, did all those types of fun things, and ate pizza. And there's a game room in the hotel and what have you. And Coach Wyant's just like, whatever hair he's got left on his head, he's losing it, because he's like, I don't know if I'm going to get home. He calls me New Year's Eve morning I guess it was about 8 o'clock our time, 8:30 our time. And he's like, you may have to come get me. I don't know if we're going to be able to get back. And we're trying to figure out all the different things. Like, should we drive to get him to New Orleans and fly back on a plane and just all these things. But, thanks to budget rental car or Hertz rental car, one of the two, and they were able to get some vans and get our kids home. And they got home around 10:30 that night. So they got to ring in the new year with their families and friends and what have you. And so that hats off to that wonderful winter break for us and those wonderful trips we like to do. But then, here we go, I guess the top ranked team in the league at Middletown Friday night, and we go out there, and offensively, I thought we played the best I'd seen. I did not get a chance to watch in person the Sycamore game, but offensively, I thought, man, we were really flowing well. Defensively, we continue to do the things and the principles that Coach Wyant instills with our kids, and we walk away with a win. And it was a very strong, convincing win. And
On the road.
It's on the road and in a tough environment with a lot of enthusiasm at Middletown. And the game's still open for us. And so the league is exactly what the league is in basketball, just like it is in football. It is anybody's game every single night, and there is no clear-cut open door winner right now. And we are going to grind for the next 2 months to get us ready for the sectional tournament. And I think that is the testament to what these schools produce in the league and what the Southwest Ohio area does. It is a true test each and every night. And I think that helps our kids at the end.
Speaking of, it's a good segue for me as far as helping the kids. It sounds like the competition down in Gulfport paid dividends in that first game at Middletown.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely, Rob. I mean, I forgot to ask Coach Wyant. I can't remember if he played Windermere Prep or not. And I don't know if people know Windermere Prep, but I think they have like the top 4 or 5 player in the country there. But it's also the home to Tiger Woods. And
Right.
so, there's a lot going on for that to be able to go and see different teams in a different area in a different part of the country is really a building block for what we try to do. And you're right. I think it does. I think it propelled us, and they had a little bit of adversity for 4 games in a row, and then they came back here and they knew what they had to do to lay it out. So we'll be ready for tomorrow night. We'll have Oak Hills, and then we get ready for a big one Friday too with Fairfield, and then propel that into Sunday down at Centos Center in the Holiday Hoops Classic, and we'll play Great Crossings out of Kentucky. And so that's a big one for us too, because the Centos Center is the regional site, and so when
Yes.
you can have opportunities to play on floors that you're going to see in the tournament, I think that's good for us. And we had our regional game there last year, and so we want to bring those kids back and put them out there in a place they need to be.
Well, best of luck this week, jumping right back into it. But I think that trip
Yeah.
is probably going to pay dividends as the season progresses. So good stuff there. Let's switch to the girls' side and talk about their holiday classic. Let's see. I think they ended break since we talked with a big win over Coleraine, and then a big GMC win over Coleraine, and then hosting the Princeton Holiday Classic on the 29th. Wow, nice program win against MND.
Yeah, shout out to Coach D Davis and her coaching staff for really putting together a really good 2 days of basketball for area teams and for teams that came out of town. We had Paul Lawrence Dunbar, who's coached by Princeton grad and UK basketball player and alum Eric Daniels. He got to come home and see his family and bring his kids up here, and got some great action, some great basketball. Cleveland Heights came down and played, and again, just a really good 2-game set. And then we had some local area teams to really see some good basketball and get on our floor a little bit again. And she did a wonderful job with that. And then, of course, capping off that second day with MND, which is a great game for us, for our kids, for our fans. We had an unbelievable crowd here that night. It was People wanted to see a great basketball game, and they did. Coach Davis had an alumni
Yes.
reunion. A lot of former players were able to come back and cheer on the Vikings, and
Those
our girls
pictures,
are,
those
yeah,
pictures from the those alumni, they just looked like they were having a great time, Joe. That was a great idea.
they absolutely did. And Coach Stein got to come back and be here with us too. And it was just a really good 2 days of basketball, and so we had some JV games mixed into it. So a lot of kids got some time that they maybe not necessarily would get over that break, to play basketball and to be into a kind of a tournament atmosphere environment, if you will. So that was really good. And then of course she turned back around, and on Saturday she had a really, really good win against Hamilton to keep the pace going for the league. And our Lady Vikes are going to head to Pickerington Central High School on Saturday and take on Niagara Prep, which is a team out of Canada, and one of those, as those basketball aficionados would say, one of those all-star teams are going to come
Yes.
down and play our Lady Vikings, and they're going to get a chance to do that in Classic in the city, and that's great exposure for our kids. And then they'll hop on the bus and they'll head up to Berlin Highland and play in Classic in the country, and they'll take on Magnificat out of the Northeast District, out of the Cleveland area, on Sunday up at Berlin Highland. And anybody that has been around girls basketball in the state of Ohio knows that Classic in the Country is a premier basketball event, just
Right.
like Classic in the City and Journey to the Tourney, but it's exposure events. A lot of college coaches show up, and here you are in the middle of nowhere, right
Right.
smack in the middle of Amish country, and you have Division I basketball coaches and this high level, high intensity basketball environment going on for 3 days in Berlin Highland. And Rob, if you ever get a chance, the best chicken noodles that you would ever have come
Really?
out of Berlin Highland. Yeah, so shout out to that. Get you some chicken noodles and sit back and watch some great basketball
Joe,
this
do you
weekend.
speak from experience? You've actually had those, or
I
those are word of mouth?
no, that's all experience generated. I when I retire, I'm taking over for Guy Fieri and doing diners, drive-ins, and dives, but I could do it from anywhere in the world. So
Nice.
yeah, so it's going to be a great weekend of basketball for the Lady Vikings.
Yeah, the one thing I want to comment on the schedule that was put together for girls basketball, coach is playing the absolute best to get her team ready for the tournament to try to repeat, and it's just my goodness, the schedule that they've played all over the Midwest is just fabulous.
Yeah, and then we don't know what's going to happen as we transition. The state has they're starting to look at increasing the number of divisions that we have,
Saw that.
and how we rank teams and how we will place ourselves on brackets in tournament play. Um,
Will that happen
it,
this year, Joe?
no,
Possibly.
it's going to, well, yeah, part of it will. The Max Preps formula is going to happen this year, but some of that's going to play into what happens to, strength of schedule, if you will, because we don't know how that multiplier is going to play out. And Coach Wyatt and Coach Davis, they actually started talking about that last week. Like, we've got to make some decisions on how we schedule and what we schedule. A team like Niagara Prep,
Okay.
for example, they don't have a multiplier that falls into a max prep schedule because they're not necessarily associated with
Right.
a state sanctioned association, but we're permitted to play them by National Federation and OHSA rules. But do you play a team like Niagara Prep that's going to put you into a really good space to get our kids exposure
Hmm.
and a tough test? Or do you turn around and say, you know what, we need to pick up, throw the hat out there, Beaver Creek or,
Sure. Centerville.
Loveland, someone
Right.
like that, so that we have that marker? Well, do we want to push our kids and get them ready for March and get them into a situation where they're going to be prepared to see Beaver Creek or Loveland in the district final, if you will? Or do
Sure.
we want to try to do that because we're worried about where we're going to be seated? And I think that's something that's going to really come into play with a lot of these events as the time moves on and as we look at how we seed and set up the formula for tournament structure.
So we see that a little bit in football. Those Week 10 opponents that come down from Canada, I see that they don't have any multipliers. They don't have
Correct.
any level 2 points, or they don't
Correct.
even count. It's kind of like a scrimmage, more or less, on points on seeding. So yeah, okay, it
It
sounds
is, and then and you can equate that to football, and of course, football has a little bit of a different in terms of how it's seeded because of the Harbin ratings, and
sure.
that's what we're trying to do with Max Preps. I just don't know if it's fine tuned enough today to be able to say, oh, it's going to be exactly like football. But you look at what we've done in the league and how we play a 9-game league schedule, which protects our league and, oh, by the way, puts a maximum amount of teams into the first round of the playoffs.
Sure.
But then the vast majority of us have been very fortunate. We were not fortunate this year, but blessed the fact that we were able to pick up and find a game week 1. But now that we have Moeller on our schedule, that brings in a good balance so that we don't necessarily have to worry about, do we need to find a team from Canada, or do we need to go to Indiana to play a game, or wherever it may be, to find a week 1 opponent. And so when our league does those types of things and we can match ourselves up across, it just builds a great strength for our conference, for our area, and it helps Region 4 tremendously.
No, no question. Great. Well, best of luck to the girls this
Yeah.
week, and as they get into the second part of the schedule. Let's jump over to Quiz Team. They're finally starting their season. They open up today, hosting the Aviators from Sycamore. We just wanted to talk that their season starts today, and best of luck to them. And anything more on that, Joe?
Absolutely. We're currently leading the league right now.
Ah, nice. Yes, you
I'm
are.
gonna just say, hey, everybody's
Good.
0-0 right now, and here we go with GMC AQT, and had a great chance last week to sit down with Coach Mulholland and talk to him a little bit and pick his brain about where we are, and we're really excited about tonight. We get to bring Sycamore over, who's going to be really good academic quiz wise, and it's going to be a great challenge for our kids. But then we have 2 good ones this week, so we're excited about this format. I joked with Coach Mulholland, and I joked a little bit last time we talked, that I brought the questions back from our GMC meeting, sealed up, haven't opened them yet. We will do the official opening and revealing tonight or this afternoon about 3 o'clock, so that nobody knows what we're getting into. But it is a lot of fun for our students to be able to do that. We're excited about the start of the season.
Joe, so anyone that sees our podcast talking about AQT and they want to come and attend, where is that held on campus?
So we hold ours in what we call the grid, which is the library in the main portion of the high school campus. and it's typically in the afternoon. It does not garner a lot of, it's not a ticketed event.
Sure.
It doesn't garner a lot of fans. But there's also another side to that. There are some students that come in and watch. I'm going to be in there this afternoon watch, but you got to be quiet. You can't distract them. And
Can't hoot
I
and
always want to
holler.
walk in with I want to walk in with confetti and signs and things like that. And you're not allowed to do that. So it's going to be fun and it's going to be exciting for the kids, and we're really excited to watch them.
Well, best of luck to them as their season gets
Yeah.
underway today against the Aviators. Let's go into the lanes and talk boys and girls bowling. They had a few matches over the break, not a lot, and they started back up last Thursday against an always tough Middletown Middies out of Gilmore, and then they had something over the weekend, a tournament back to school bash, and then they crank it up Wednesday against Lebanon on the road at Eastern Lanes.
Yeah, bowling bowling's in a little bit of funk, particularly on the girls' side. But I had one of our senior bowlers say to me, "Well, Dad, it's because we've had a match and they were limited, while it may be intentionally for the student side of things, they were limited on the amount of practice they were able to get over the break. And that's because of the availability of the lanes.
Sure.
The house is going to lean toward those leagues as much as they can to try to keep that business moving. But they come back, and we went to the back to school bash, which is at Roll House, which is, if anyone follows Southwest Ohio bowling, Southwest Ohio is a dominant bowling area. It is the plethora, the birthplace, the background of high school bowling is, I will say it to anybody, it comes out of Southwest. So we go down there, and from an individual standpoint, they roll okay.
Okay.
But from a team standpoint, what you have to do is you have to be really good in those Baker rounds. And so the kids, our bowlers just aren't versed enough to do Bakers to where they're going to be very, very consistent. Now, I think as this week, we'll have a couple duels. And then next weekend, we head back to the Bakers Bash, where it's all Bakers tournaments.
Yes.
And I've said this before, in team bowling, you advance by winning Baker rounds.
Right.
You can throw your game individually, but if you can win in the Bakers, then your team can advance through as a team. And so sometimes that's really hard for kids that don't do it often to get to do it. But they did a great job. The girls on Saturday, the boys on Sunday, they threw really, really well. But here was the key, and Coach Wilson and I talked about this after the boys match with a couple of the boys. You were at the sectional site on the sectional floor throwing the state oil pattern, which you and I, Rob, I never knew in my world how much the oil pattern matters, but it matters. And so the more times we can put our Vikings in that setting where they're put in front of the pattern that they know that's going to get them in,
right,
the lanes, the familiarity, the lighting, everything that goes into it, it helps them. So while the wins didn't come, the success was there because of the exposure that they did. And it's fun to watch our kids bowl, and to watch kids that have never done it in their life go out there and try to do it. It is just fun to watch them do that.
Yep, love the high school bowling. Best of luck to them as the second half of the season kicks off. Let's dive into the pool talk, boys and girls swimming.
Well, we just came off of, I think Coach Tamaris, our assistant coach and longtime head coach, if I say it wrong, then I apologize in advance, but I think we had 450 swimmers here this past Saturday. We held our Princeton Invite, which is one of the most popular invites in Southwest Ohio. Our parents, our coaches, our student athletes do just simply an awesome job with it. And a lot of it's attributed to the fact that we are the sectional site, so it draws a lot of people in to get in our water. But when you look at the level of competition that's here, and our kids saw some great results out of it. We had a couple PRs where Coach Mickey Abbas is getting us to where that word tapering is starting to begin, if you will. We've got an extremely difficult weekend in front of us with the Coaches Classic, where Princeton is blessed to host the prelim rounds Saturday morning, Sunday morning, and then those finals head over to St. X. But the fact that we can get our kids back in that water against really the premier swim programs and put them in situations where maybe not as a team, but if we can slide one out into the finals or two out into the finals, that's going to be a great training ground for them as we head into the GMC championship. And then, of course, sectionals and trying to move somebody into districts.
Yeah, that's great. Best of luck to them, because that's a grind. And like we talked in December, they were tapering, getting ready for this, and now they're right here. So
Yeah.
it's time to go. So
Yeah, it's in front of us.
yep. Tom, let's wrap up this week's show, Joe. Let's talk wrestling.
Yeah, we went over there to the traditional Ron Masonic Fairfield invite and got some kids into the finals on the second day. And Coach Powell just is really about putting those kids into. We have some really, really good wrestlers right now, and I think it's about getting them into a situation where they need to see the best competition that's in front of them, so that we can get ready for the GMC, which is going to be a juggernaut. We know that. We know
Right.
that what we do in the GMC was what we'll see to get us through sectionals and into districts. Um, I think that it's really good with how we've scheduled some things, because this Wednesday we'll host a nice quad with Trotwood Madison, West High, and Withrow,
Got
which
it.
for that situation, though, those three schools may not bring full teams,
Sure.
but what it'll be able to do is it'll be able to get a lot of our kids, in particular, maybe not some of our top kids, but a lot of our kids time on the mat. And that's what they need. And he's building that from that bottom up. He's sent our girls to a couple of invites this year, and so they're starting to get exposure. Those numbers continue to grow. And I think next weekend we're going to head to Tays Valley and to Centerville for a JV as well. So as we put ourselves in those situations, I think it's going to be really good. And I think we're going to have an exciting January, but more importantly, that first weekend in February is going to be really exciting.
Yeah, that's fun. Well, best of luck to them as they start grinding and getting ready for tournament time for the wrestlers. Joe, thanks for your time today. Have a great week. We're going to take next week off because it's a holiday, and then we'll jump back into RED podcast. Have a great week. Thanks for your time, and all the best.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Rob. You have a great week as well.
Thanks. Take care.